Hit me,
Sorry.
baby, one more
Wow.
time.
I like the nipple push out that you just did. That was glorious.
I think it
Look at
was
that shit,
inspired by Socrates ripping his nipples off. So
Probably. And you can see more of that over at our YouTube channel. Hello and welcome to the Murder Moose podcast, part of the Slashing Cast podcast network.
it's in my ass.
It's in the game. I'm Continue.
I'm
That's
Rod.
I'm
That's
Brian.
Yep.
Sorry.
We are
I don't
all.
like our own entries, but whatever.
I mean,
No,
it would
you-
make it
I was-
easier,
I was
especially
loving
because you're pointing to where we are in Ninja, but that doesn't necessarily translate to
yeah.
where you are on the recording screen, because on the recording screen you're next
it.
to
You
me,
just
Ken,
pointed at the camera the whole time.
and Brian's above
I'm
me,
Ken. That's Brian. That's Rod.
and I'm Zelda. Zelda's right here, but yeah.
And my cats have zoomies and they're fighting and they're playing, but they're hungry and they can sit. But welcome.
Can enjoy the peace and quiet until Bean gets there, and then Weasel will be planning your death in a slow, painful method.
Sorry, they're literally trying to pull the curtains down. This is a new one.
It's like
Anyway, hi.
hi. Ken lives in Canada now, and it's really cold and icy there, and her nipples fell off, and
My nipples fell off. My nose is very pink. And yeah, it's 5. It was 5. It was 5 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill. Our wind chill is incredible because it can be like right now it's 15 degrees out. But with the wind chill, it feels like -4. And I can attest to the fact that it feels like -4 because I was just walking in it.
yeah. Ken needed alcohol after watching Shocker today. That was my joke with Brian.
No, I will have you know I needed garlic cloves and evaporated milk.
I mean,
I'm trying to piece together what you could be making.
Mashed taters.
Oh,
it sounds like you're celebrating Thanksgiving. Your Thanksgiving was last month, Ken.
Yeah, I didn't do because I wasn't here for Thanksgiving, so I'm not doing Thanksgiving this year.
Power to the people.
I'm just eating food.
Yeah, I'm just existing. I don't give a shit.
I don't give two shits and a shingle.
I don't like Thanksgiving, so
I mean,
I like
it's just
the
about,
food associated with it. I don't like anything else about the holiday.
yeah.
dude. I'm just happy because last year at Thanksgiving I was a fucking disaster of a human being. So here we are, and I'm a normal level of disaster of a human being now, and here we are. So here we are, motherfuckers. Here we are. Okay, Ken, as you continue your life savings or your life commitment to Satisfactory, I have to ask. Will Satisfactory ever end?
I'm sure it will at some point. There's a couple of reasons, and I think I talked about this already. But number one, like I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I'm having to fight my way to come up with new content. I'm not like searching for things to do in the game. And number two, I mean, I have met a lot of really cool people from it. My numbers are really great for it, so it's kind of hard to walk away from it anyway.
Dude,
I
just can't.
Don't want to play anything else. Like if I want to play it, I'm playing it off stream.
Yeah.
So
I'm just laughing because you, of all the time I've known you, this year you've been more addicted to 2 games than any. Like first it was Pokemon with guns for like a month and a half, and now Satisfactory is coming up close to that, and you're just like, Pokemon with guns was like was by far your like most streamed game of this year, and then
yeah, it because actually we were looking at that the other day because Pat pointed out that this is getting ready to bypass my most played game.
Yep.
So
Dude.
my top, if you take just chatting out, my top were Fallout 4, New World, POW World, and Golf with Your Friends, because we used to play Golf with Your Friends every Sunday.
Yeah.
Satisfactory just overtook POW World by 60, 70 hours. So it's coming up. another 30 hours and it beats out New World,
Damn.
and 100 hours and it'll beat out Fallout 4. So
Dude,
You're gonna do that.
I just see it like
You're gonna
it
do
like it tickles Kin's like part of her brain that loves spreadsheets. Is really what it is. It's like my part of the brain that's like chaos. That part of the Kin's brain is like, I love spreadsheets. Ah! And then every time like I watch Kin, like especially when she's like introing and doing stuff, and then like I quickly go, I don't know what's happening, so I'm gonna leave my tab like muted and Kin up and go to places where I understand what is happening.
I'll start doing math and I'll be like, okay, well, I'll make it through. Everything will go good. I'll start going down the production line. Then I'll be like, wait, why is this at 65%? So then I'm having to like backtrack and figure out where my math went wrong and when and how bad and what the percentage ratio is and how can I fix it.
Yep.
And then sometimes I'm just like, fuck it, whatever. I don't give a shit. And then eventually that line will dry up and I'll figure it out.
I just laugh at like because the game. If you've never watched Satisfactory or played Satisfactory, you look like you're running around. Kin is like flying around the map, and it looks like she's holding Switch controllers. And I'm just like, what? In a game that like you have Gary or whatever his name is, that like the giant alien monster pet thing that runs around, and he's like the least confusing part of all of it. I'm just like, yep, I don't know what's happening.
Oh, are you talking about the unusual creature?
Yeah, that looks like a brontosaurus or something.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
Brian, what the fuck have you been up to besides like being sexy? I have to ask.
Just working, man. Gearing up for my my next show. I've got a show. This will drop on a Thursday on just
On Thanksgiving. Yeah.
And then so if you're watching or listening to this 2 days from now, I will be playing a show on the 30th. So we had a rehearsal for that. Yeah, that's about all I've got going on. It's a Faith No, obviously, because I quit that other band. I just don't have time for them. So
yeah,
it's my Faith No More tribute band. We're playing a show.
Yeah.
On, what do they call the day after Black Friday? Like White Saturday? I don't know.
I don't think it has a name, but I mean, I don't know. All I know is that I'm trying to make sure I get expensive stuff I want for Burning Man next year before like Trump tariffs take.
It's a good call. It's a very good call.
I'm planning on getting a tent, and then Socrates is like, I have these like military tents sitting around. And I'm like, well, you could send me one. And he's like, I don't know if I have all the parts. I'm like, well, tell me, bitch, because I know you're like missing a nipple now, but like, I need to know before like all this shit like is not on sale anymore. Because, yeah, I was planning on waiting till next month or January. Not gonna happen anymore because like,
yeah,
because we live in the end times. We live in the end times, motherfucker.
Speaking of buying stuff, I bought a car.
Ooh, look at you.
Bought it outright because it's a used car.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's like a 2008, 2009 Malibu, but it's like in really, really good shape. And I bought it from a guy in town, so I get it tomorrow.
I have to ask Ken.
Mm-hmm.
Now, living in like the North Pole, is buying a Malibu that I assume is 2-wheel drive, because I think all Malibus are 2-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the smartest of decisions?
Well, the price is really good. The roads here are maintained a lot better than like Tennessee, right? Like in town, downtown Main Street here is an ice rink right now, but I just drove it in the truck, no problem. So like anywhere that I really need to go, if I'm going somewhere that I know is going to be icy, I'll take the truck. But if I'm just going back and forth to the big cities, which is the plan for it, the car is perfect. So, I mean, I'm going to get winter tires for it, so that'll help a little bit. But I drove it yesterday through a field that was covered in snow. I drove it down a gravel road that was ice and snow. I drove it down a regular road that was relatively clear, and the highway, which was completely clear, and it was fine. The only time I had any issues is I was trying to slide down, or I was trying to turn around near a pump jack, and that road was just a complete, it hadn't been touched. And I slid just a smidgen, but it was fine because I've driven in snow before.
I think two-wheel drive is easier, like when you're not trying to go uphill at all,
Yeah, and
especially.
it's flat. It's
Yeah,
flat as
yeah,
fuck here. Like, yeah, two-wheel drive in the Smokies, like that's completely different. You don't want to fuck with that. But like
Yep.
two-wheel drive here, it's fine. I
Do-
mean, like I'm sure at some point I'll get stuck. I'm not cocky enough to think that I won't, but
That
Dude,
happens to everybody.
My only problem I ever had with that Civic, which I got rid of at the beginning of the year, was that it like when I lived in Colorado Springs is hilly as fuck, and trying to go up there like when it got icy and cold like that was like it was like nope, that ain't gonna happen. So I'd have to go the long way around. But like, I think that like I refuse to ever not have 4-wheel drive. But like for what you're doing and what you're, I think that's an awesome deal. And I'm just giving you shit about like whatever.
What do you drive that has? What do you drive, Rod?
Subaru Crosstrek. I am a Coloradan.
Is it an all-wheel drive or is
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
all
gotcha.
it is required by the Colorado state constitution that you drive a Subaru here. And it's just like
Subaru, I never wanted a Subaru, and now like I would love one day. But
Yep.
like, yeah, I mean, like this car, like the guy that sold it to me, he would drive it in town. He was driving it in town up until like a couple months ago. But
Yep.
his daughter gave him a car, and he was like, I have like 7 cars right now. Please buy this. And I was like, absolutely.
sounds good. I mean,
Please buy this. How much? $7. I'll give you
$7.
5. Deal. You know, I know a
Sounds
guy that
good.
bought a car for $2.
You have
Yeah,
to buy it for
some
something because you
fucking
can't do
shit.
gifts for some
He
reason.
bought a car for $2 and drove it away from the fucking guy he bought it from. It wasn't even like trashed and like just fucked up, you know.
I assume at $2.
I've never seen
yeah.
some shit like that in my whole life. They jokingly get met together. He's like, "Well, I'm interested in buying it." It was a Grand, it was a Pontiac Grand Am, and he, we drove up to the place, and he was like looking at the car. All right, everything looks fine. It had some minor issues and shit, but it was his son's, and it had just been sitting there forever in the driveway. His son got a different car, didn't have need for that anymore. And the dude was just like, well, make me an offer. And my buddy jokingly was just like, I'll give you $1. And the guy was like, sold. So he tipped him another $1 and then drove the fucking thing away.
That's
And I
amazing.
watched it happen and I was like, huh. Like if I would have just chimed in and said, I got 3.
Yeah, you could have the car.
I got poached his sale.
It kind of sounds like what the
Hey,
auction.
now, man.
It kind of sounds like what the auction was for all the Alex Jones things, but no.
Yeah,
you-
it sounds like it.
I watched a whole video about that today, and it made me laugh about how like the Onion paid like $1.5 million for all this stuff because it was the best for like the families of all the like whatever. But I think it's hysterical that like the whole point of selling the InfoWars bullshit empire was just so the Onion could buy it and like harass the shit out of that piece of garbage human being that is Alex Jones. So okay, let's go and talk about Brian's had a Woody for this movie, I think, since he joined the podcast, and it's been like
it's been a long time.
it was like
coming.
he got Mary Lou to who the boo shoo foo do, and then like after that it's been Shocker. So we finally have watched the Shocker, and
I'm really, 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 really proud of Ken for showing up today.
if you don't
Because
know,
she did me
Yeah.
dirty.
after we watched me and Brian ended up doing a solo episode about Mary Lou 2 Boo Hoo Prom Night 2, and Ken missed it, and the whole reason Brian wanted to do that movie was so Ken would watch it with him, and she missed the episode, and so it was just me and Brian, and Brian's been sad ever since.
We'll do a revisit.
So we are talking about Shocker from 1989. Ken, do you have a synopsis for Shocker? The Shocker.
I do. After being sent to the electric chair, a serial killer uses electricity to come back from the dead and carry out his vengeance on the football player who turned him into the police.
The
Okay.
football player.
Ken, I was bringing this up to Brian while we were like chilling out, bullshitting for you to come in. Why does this movie start with this football player turning into a Looney Tunes character and running face first into not one, but multiple objects, including a fucking field goal post, which gives him psychic powers, which links him to a serial killer who turns out to be his father, who, like, then murders his adopted family, and he sees it all. But then the psycho killer also sees him, and that's my first question is, why is this movie part of the Looney Tunes universe?
That was a long question. Did hitting his
I
head
forgot
actually
the
give him the
question.
psycho? Did it actually give him the psychic powers, or did he just already have them and was linked with his father? That it just happened to cross over to his adopted father or adopted family.
I feel like him running into the field goal post was why he, like, awakened his psychic powers. Brian, do you have any ideas on this?
No. I don't think that deeply into it because it's just pointless. I instead just appreciate the campy beauty that the movie has and just take it for what it's worth.
Okay, Brian. And I understand that. And Kid and I are both, we discussed this before we started recording. We're both on the same page that we like this movie. But
I can tell.
Deeper analysis of why running into, if I run, okay,
Well,
I'm going to
here's the thing. There is no thing. The thing. Sometimes you just need to. Sometimes you just need to, like, take things at their face value. And
Okay.
This is exactly what one of those situations, in my opinion.
Okay, I just wanted to say that because I wanted to now, like, transition into what Brian and I were also talking about before Ken showed up. This movie is kind of a Wes Craven kind of like making fun of what the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were
It's
turning
almost like a
into.
middle finger
I
to
was
New
gonna
Line.
ask because I didn't look up to see when like Nightmare on Elm Street versus this came out, but it definitely felt that. Like I definitely felt that the whole time. Like obviously it's
The original Elm Street obviously came out in
84. 84,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So,
This
this is
at
obviously
this
5
point,
years after that.
he had made
Let me pull up the Nightmare timeline.
at
we can
least-
actually-
At least Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which was where it started
I would
getting
assume.
bad. I mean, you know,
I don't remember 3 is the problem. I don't
3 is
remember
the
3
Dream
at all.
Warriors with the guy like where he cuts off his like he makes him a marionette with his like his muscles and shit like that, tendons and
Okay.
shit.
Oh yeah.
I have the information
Okay.
that you needed,
Okay.
Rodney.
Proceed.
In 1989, Nightmare on Elm Street 5 came out.
So
Oh,
4
okay.
so 4 had been like we use 4 as a
4 hadn't
reference.
been out already.
Yeah, like to when this was being made. So there, I mean, we all know Wes Craven. Oddly, Wes Craven only really liked sequels when it was Scream for some reason because he didn't seem to be a big fan of sequels outside of Scream.
It wasn't that he wasn't a fan of sequels because he actually wrote a treatment for Nightmare Part 3. And he came up with a lot of the story for Nightmare Part 3.
But
he
he did that because Nightmare 2 was such a fucking disaster on so many levels.
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
that. And that's probably part of why. But yeah, he I think that there's a difference though. He didn't write any of the Scream movies.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quote unquote his property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But also, dude, they started really throwing a lot of money at him, and New Line didn't have money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because New Line was built by Freddy.
I mean, yeah, New Line would have gone like basically if you don't know when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, they basically went all in on Nightmare on Elm Street. If Nightmare on Elm Street hadn't been a success, New Line wouldn't have existed anymore, which would have canceled.
New Line wouldn't be a thing.
I mean, I bet Nightmare would have gone somewhere else and like been semi-similar, but like who knows really what would have happened. But
for all signs point to that it would have been successful, probably no matter where it ended up. I would imagine.
yeah, I assume so too. But you don't.
Depending on what's, because you're right. Sometimes studios don't give directors the creative freedom that New Line gave Wes.
Yep.
So he would have had to wait 30 years and then make it with new Blumhouse. So
Yeah.
like, he would have had to wait for a while. So yeah.
What I mean,
24
he
years.
died. He died in what 2013, 2014? What was it that he died?
Yes.
Something like that. Like so
It's
you.
been wow.
Yeah, man. What I mean. Donald Trump keeps living, and Wes Craven died in 10 years ago, and here we are.
What'd you just say?
I said Donald Trump keeps living, and we.
That's what I thought you said. He passed away in 2015.
Oh, was it 2015? Yeah, because it was
Yeah,
right.
the day after my fucking birthday.
Oh man. So, Ken, what was your like? Okay, did you have any idea what this movie was going into it?
No, I mean, I knew a little bit because I read the synopsis on stream and like obviously the cover and everything. But I did not expect I didn't expect it to go as long because it
Yeah.
could have ended on so many different points. It felt like it was a 1 and 2 combined, with
Yeah.
the 2 being the shittier version, because like you reach a great moment where it could have just been, what's going to happen? We don't know. Ooh, and you could have left it there, but then it like kept going and going and going and going.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
no,
Wes
I
has done
wasn't.
that in other movies too.
Sorry, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it. It was just long, and
It's
and people on Reddit too. I was looking, and they were like, "Yeah, for some reason, I thought this movie was an hour and a half. It always felt like an hour and a half." And I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck? It felt like 2 hours for me."
Yeah.
But
Dude, it.
Yeah, it's
What-
110 minutes is a long time for a cheesy, campy horror movie.
We're laughing even about, like I said to Brian before you showed up, Ken, it has the most B movie poster I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like this movie poster, like if it was made in 2024, it was like a kid with like not even Photoshop, but like one of the free ripoffs of Photoshop. And like they just took a dude, and every time I see the prison uniform in this movie, I go, why does he have like a crash test dummy prison uniform? Like that's so if you guys
It's
don't
funny.
like, the crash test dummies in the early 90s were pretty popular. I mean, they had their own cartoon and action
Yeah.
figures and all that shit. Ken, do you remember the crash test dummies? That might have been a little before your time.
no, I remember it. I did want to say that I did find something a second ago that would have been really helpful in our previous conversation. But apparently, Craven did tell Fangoria that he was making a new Freddy Krueger where he would 100% own the character.
Ah, dude, it is that weird oddity of it. It seems like Wes was like, yeah, he wanted to own his own character. I mean, his estate owns. Brian and I were also talking about this earlier. His family owns Freddy Krueger now, but like obviously it was the 30-year kind of thing. But it makes sense because he was probably bitter because like he made fucking Freddy Krueger, and they were 4 movies in and hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's like, these motherfuckers, because he didn't like I mean obviously Freddy kept getting worse outside of like number 3.
Yeah.
So it's like you know what,
Yeah, because you can't talk about any Wes Craven movie without mentioning Freddy Krueger because they're just synonymous with each other.
Yeah.
What did you say? You said you would watch the worst Friday the 13th movie before you'd watch some of the latter entries of the
Oh yeah, I will watch
Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
I will watch
4,
Jason
5,
on a
and 6.
yeah.
pretty
I will
bad
watch
movies.
Jason on a boat 10 times before I will watch fucking Freddy 6.
3D Freddy.
Dude, that movie is just like, it is the oddity of how terrible a horror movie can be when like the fucking like I will go to like let's talk about some of the fucking sequels I really truly don't like that much. Jason Goes to Hell, don't like that movie very much.
Okay.
Freddy's Dead.
Prometheus.
I mean, I don't need to go into Prometheus again. Fuck that movie. I really don't like the Seed of I hate Seed of Chucky. I'm a big Chucky person, even though I don't think we need to do Chucky at some point. But like,
Yeah.
I think we should.
yeah, Seed of Chucky is one of my most hated movies of all time. I fucking despise that movie.
I've only seen it once. It's not very good.
Yeah, I don't like that movie. And yeah, it just shows you like I could watch bad Jason movies over bad Freddy movies because you don't have fucking Jason doing colored commentary about how bad the movie is while it's happening.
Yeah.
The joys of a serial killer that talks too much. We don't ever have to worry about Art the Clown doing Terrifier movies where he's making too many jokes because Art doesn't talk. One of the joys of Art the Clown.
I do have to, like, as far as funny lines in this movie, there were a lot, but please go on.
No, there's a lot of funny. Kim, did you notice Mr. Raimi in this movie also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to point that out. I thought that was really interesting. He played Pac-Man.
Yeah. He doesn't, I don't even know if he has a line in the movie. Does he say anything?
Yeah, he says something whenever they're like getting ready to remove the bullet or getting ready to leave after removing the bullet. He says something. Just a side note, in addition to him being in the movie, we were talking about it before we started recording about how freaking cool it is to me that Pinker is the guy that plays Skinner in X-Files, and
Yep.
it just makes me really happy. And like, dude is fucking, he was like shredded then, he was still shredded in X-Files. Like, he's a very attractive man.
He's a
Yeah,
good
Mitch
looking.
Pileggi is a beast, man.
His
I love
haircut
him.
in X-Files did not do him any justice,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
he's a very attractive man.
I have a question for both of you because I thought of this when I was watching this today. When he's getting electrocuted, how does the electrocution head thing get like removed from his head and like moved backwards mid execution?
That's a very good question. I'll pass that to our resident electric chair understander, Brian.
Brian isn't an electric chair understander. Brian is going to refer back to the same comment that he made earlier. Sometimes you just need to take things at face value, and you just got to appreciate the campy silliness
Well, I
that's
mean,
happening.
For that, because
logic does really. It completely gets thrown out of the door.
Well,
and that's kind of what I love about the movie because
Yeah.
nothing makes sense for what happens, and that's kind of the beauty of it because
I wanted to.
it's genuinely like he just took everything, yeeted it at the fucking wall, and it was just like, there we go.
I
And
mean, for
think it's fantastic.
every scene like that where I'm like, I don't understand what happened. Then you compare it to the little when he possesses the little girl who is just the best. Do you two agree that is the best scene in the movie? The little girl being possessed by him is the best scene in the movie.
No,
So, funny
best scene
story
of the
about
movie
that.
is when they're getting ready to smash open the power box, and they're like and he's Rhino's trying to get the guy to pick the lock, and he's like,
That's a felony.
I can't pick the lock. That's a felony. And he was like, wait, where did it go? Because I wrote it down because it made me laugh so hard. That's not a felony. That's a lock. Pick it. No, that's a lock. Pick it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the little girl being possessed, which is a great moment in the movie. That funny side story that's the first scene they shot.
With the little girl.
When they were filming the movie, that's the first scene they shot. So that is what Mitch Pileggi had to base his bad leg on. Was this girl? This little girl basically set the standard. And when he watched it, he was just like, fuck. He's like, okay, so this is how I'm gonna have to like drag my leg. Because this girl, she was super young. How old do you think she was? Probably 7,
Probably
8. I don't know. Fucking
eight
child.
ish. Yeah.
Yeah, 8ish. And she set the standard for the Horace Pinker fucking dead leg drag that he had to do throughout the whole fucking movie.
My favorite part about that is that like it's from the like you don't even 100% confirm what that's from because again his character isn't exactly a reliable narrator kind of thing. Like the whole thing, like you don't know how you trust anything from him. He says that the main character shot him in the kneecap because he was really his son, and that like he was got taken from away from him and blah blah blah. And it's funny because that shit never really gets like it never gets settled. But this movie was made in 2024. They'd like he would go to the library and start doing like doing those scantrons of like him being taken away from his father and whatever, and it's just like what I love about this movie, because this is like the second time I think I've watched it, like you start there going, there are so many things in this movie that don't make sense, but it's okay because the movie is fucking entertaining as shit. Like if he hadn't have killed that cop, there would like the movie would have ended. Like he would have just been like he had no reason to fucking pull that cop into his fucking. That was the one. It was the most stereotypical serial killer room of ever, all time, whatever. It was just like
Fucking
okay.
awesome.
It was like now you like go to Chat GPT. We need you to describe a serial killer's lounge. Okay, you need a bunch of black cats hanging from the wall, mummified. You're gonna need like weird like picture diagrams, and you're gonna need all this like they're gonna be fucking pentagrams everywhere. And you're like, okay, this okay, cool. So he's in his little lounge, his little serial killer thing. The cop's out there smoking a cigarette, and he, for no reason at all, pulls him in and kills him, and ends up like like unveiling himself. Not that it matters in the long run, but like it's like this movie is it goes. Who needs logic when you have a movie about a guy who can transfer bodies? It's like basically you took Nightmare on Elm Street and mixed it with Fallen, the Denzel Washington / John Goodman movie. Time is on your side. Yes, it is. That movie, man. That movie was way darker than this, but yeah.
Fallen's way darker movie.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of underrated. Also,
I'm
due for a rewatch of that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched that one. Have you ever seen Fallen, Kin?
No.
With Denzel and John Goodman? Yeah, it is.
Movie.
It's pretty entertaining. It's got similarities to this film whatsoever because it executed Prisoner and all that. But that movie's way more.
There's also similarities to a movie called The First Power.
I've never seen that one.
It's an old Lou Diamond Phillips horror thriller.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think
it's kind of an obscure movie. It's really, really good. I genuinely enjoy it. I think it's a good movie as well.
Yeah. It's not a good movie. It's an entertaining movie, I think.
Fair, yeah. Fair.
Dude, I have to say, like, I was sitting there watching this, and I'm like, this dude had, like, the main character. What's the actor's name, Ken?
The actor's name for the main character is Peter Berg.
Peter Berg is the director of such fine fanfare as Deepwater Horizon and Hancock.
And he was involved he was the executive producer of Victoria's Secret Angel and Demons mini TV series.
Well, that's really his claim to fame right there. I mean, right? Like,
he was on.
Seen that.
He was in a lot of TV things. It's funny because like let's say I'm not gonna say his acting was bad in this movie, but a lot of his acting wasn't great.
It wasn't good.
Yeah,
he wasn't good.
But at the same time, how much of that was it wasn't good, and how much of that is what he was supposed to be doing?
Yeah,
like make it campy and cheesy.
Yeah,
that's the thing, Brian. Do you have any context in how much of this movie like Wes was aiming for to be a little campy?
It feels like a massive, massive middle finger to New Line. It feels like it. I don't know that it is. This is, I believe, the first of 3 movies or the second of 3 movies that he did with a contract with Universal. Because he did this, he did The Serpent and the Rainbow, and he did the People Under the Stairs.
I
all
so
as a 3-movie deal that
yeah.
he did with Universal.
Wasn't it?
Um,
Didn't all three of those go pretty bad financially too? Like, I don't think.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I don't think this movie exactly set the world on fire. I would think that probably the most successful one out of all three of them was probably The People Under the Stairs.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I don't think I've ever seen that because I was looking at that a minute ago and I was like, that I don't think I ever watched that, and I really need to watch that.
Well, you
That's a
should do
pretty
that
cool movie.
here in like we're already starting a list of things we need to do, and that movie is a wild kid. It's one of those movies that like I've heard like this. I don't know about you, Brian. Have you heard about them? Like, oh, we're going to remake this movie. I've been hearing about remakes of that for movie for
Jordan
years.
Peele's working on
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Peele's working on that.
it's got it is a weird movie for so many reasons. It's got like Home Alone elements in it. It's got like
Yeah, it's definitely your home invasion gone wrong type movie.
yeah, there's gimp suits, there's sister fucking, there's a lot of weird things in that movie, and it's entertaining as shit though. I mean, it's way more serious than this movie, like, which is I don't think it's saying much.
It's got a pretty young Ving Rhames.
Yeah. I mean, that was like before Pulp Fiction, right? Like, so it was like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This was before Ving was Ving.
well, dude,
His brain was out like, this is like one of the first things I ever saw Ving Rhames do. Was
I mean,
People Under the
Pulp
Stairs.
Fiction was 94, so it was like in the early 90s there, because that People Under the Stairs came after this movie, right? So yeah, early
Yeah, it
90s.
probably came out in like
Yeah.
1990, 91, somewhere.
But it makes me laugh because we were talking about like his three studio film deal thing, and it made me think of John Carpenter's 3 studio deal where, yeah,
Right? Yeah.
and it's just like,
They usually don't go well.
yeah, well, dude,
It seems
it's-
like they usually don't go well. I don't know why.
I mean, and let's be honest, I mean, we all love John Carpenter to death. John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors, if not my favorite director of all time. He's up there. And none of his movies outside of Halloween were ever that like highly like never like what was his biggest box office smash? It was Halloween, right? It wasn't even close. Like most of his movies you put in a fucking theater, and it's like how much different was Wes Craven? I think
because
Wes
Christine did really well in the theater. I want to say even Escape from LA made money. It's not good,
yeah.
but it made money based on the strength of Kurt Russell being a huge draw at the time.
Yeah. Which is funny because
but,
Escape from LA is such an
think
inferior film to like Escape from New York, and it's just not even close.
it isn't 1/10 as good a movie as
If you're
Escape from,
asking for the
New
box
York.
office highest grossing of his, Prince of Darkness is 10, Memoirs of an Invisible Man is 9, The Thing is 8, Vampires is 7, Christina 6, The Fog is 5, Escape from New York is 4, Escape from LA is 3, Starman is 2, and Halloween 1978 is 1 at
I've never s-
70.3 million in the box office.
I will say though, I've never seen
There's a
Starman.
lot of re-releases for Halloween that have helped generate some of that, but
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me that Halloween's number 1. This surprised me that Starman's number 2 because I knew that movie. I love that movie. It's wonderful. It's a
I've never
wonderful
seen it.
movie.
I've never seen.
I've
it.
never seen it
It's
either.
a science
Yeah.
fiction love story.
Yeah, so I know it's
It looks like the scenes from Guardians of the Galaxy where where
Yes.
Kurt Russell is giving the flower to Star-Lord's mom.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just-
Starman's a wonderful film.
Well,
Memoirs of an Invisible Man is fucking so bad.
I've never seen that one either.
It's a
Dude.
comedy.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi comedy.
Well, that's what's with Chevy Chase, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad. It's got
Well-
some impressive special effects. That's about it.
It's funny because it's like it's Wes Craven, and I don't know if like normal film like people like movie people compare them, but obviously we're horror people and we're like sitting there and talking about this. Like I always really correlate Craven with Carpenter because like
Yeah,
I know
do
Craven
too.
I do too.
Craven started a little bit before Carpenter, but like it's those two kind of went for a long time together. And like Craven died. I mean, obviously, whatever, like in 2015, like we just said, but like Carpenter stopped making movies. Like what Ghost of Mars was this his last movie? Like it's like that thing
No,
where like
The Ward was his last film.
oh yeah, The Ward, yeah.
I think Amber Heard's in that. I think.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, so it's like you always kind of correlate those guys and like see what it is, and it's just like, I don't know. I love Wes Craven. But fuck, man, John Carpenter he hits that special spot in my heart because sci-fi horror is like, you do a good sci-fi horror and it's just like it makes my booty hole feel good, and I'm just like,
Well, Wes Craven he touched other genres too.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Red Eye, which is just a straight up
thriller.
suspense thriller
Yeah.
movie. And then he made Music of the Heart, which is a drama. But he didn't venture out away from horror much more than just those two
Yeah.
films. I think he did shoot a porno. But I think
Yeah.
I don't even think it's under his credited name of Wes Craven. I want to say he shot it after Deadly Blessing. And
Yeah. Before Last House on the Left, right?
Last House on the Left,
Yeah.
something like that. But I shot it. It could. Well, I think Deadly Blessing was shot after Last House on the Left. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, he didn't venture outside of horror a whole lot. But when he did, both of those movies are really good movies. Like Red Eye is a fucking fantastic
Yeah.
movie. And if you're into violins, Music of the Heart's a fucking cool movie. But it's a movie with Meryl Streep and
Yeah.
Gloria Estefan. Meryl Streep being quite regarded as one of the best female actors of our generation.
I do wonder, like, we talk about it, we're going to go back to like actually going into Shocker. It feels like Wes Craven, you said this movie is a big fuck you to New Line. Like
It feels like it. It's I don't obviously I don't know that for a fact, but it feels
but
like
I can see that, but like, because like this movie came out in 1989. This man had been doing things for a long time and had tight things. Even like Ken was talking about, even the runtime of this movie seems like a fuck you to the like making it like making it 2 hours is so like you could get less screenings of a film in during the day. Like it like, and this movie is just like, especially the ending, like the ends of the bookends of this movie. Like the beginning feels like it goes on too long, and the end feels like it goes on too long. And it's sitting there going, man, this motherfucker was just like, because we all know. I mean, Wes Craven was bitter about. I mean, he was bitter about Nightmare on Elm Street. He was bitter about a lot of stuff. He was not a. I mean, I'm not surprised he died when he did. He seemed kind of like an angry dude with there was a lot of bitterness for like, you don't blame him. I mean, he takes all this stuff he's done and he just like gets shit on by the fucking process that is Hollywood. And you go, I get it, but man, it's just like, it's funny that like, if it was a fuck you, this movie is like, he couldn't help from making it entertaining and making it like a Wes Craven movie at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like everything in this movie, like every time I watch it is like the special effects, like the shocker kind of like when he's coming in and possessing people and he's kind of like a TV static ghost. It's like this is cool, man. Like for like 1989.
Oh, Chef's Kiss, awesome.
Yeah. It's just like, dude, Wes Craven, obviously, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street has some of the best like practical effects, like, shots of all time. And he just knew cool ways to do things. Like if you don't know the scene where Freddy comes out through the wall like to get her while she's sleeping, Nancy. It was like done with a rubber sheet, and then
Yeah.
they in the remake they do it with CG, and it looks like dog
Looks
shit.
like dookie fuck.
Yeah, so it's like
I like the room aspect of it, like when
Yeah.
she's being tossed around in the room, and then the fact that they had to reuse that room for another movie or something.
yeah.
That was really cool.
So they rotated
Oh,
the
they used
room.
that room twice in the same movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, because
Oh
the,
yeah,
the
they used it for Johnny Depp's character's bedroom.
Yeah.
But
And then
Rod-
they used
Rodney wasn't his name Rodney, the one who got like the boyfriend who gets murdered at the beginning of the movie, or no, he didn't. He got killed in a prison cell. But
that was Glenn. Johnny
was it-
Depp's character's name was Glenn.
Yeah, the
Rodney was
boyfriend.
the boyfriend, I think.
Yeah,
that
Rodney was the
cute.
boyfriend. I just find it like because there aren't a lot of rods in cinema. So here we go. But,
Rodney.
There are no Kinsleys in cinema. Are there? No
There's
Kinsey.
a lot of Kinseys now.
There are.
Kinsey's.
Cool name.
Dude,
No, I've seen a few in one of the Strangers movies. It might be the second or the third one. The girl's name is Kinsey.
Oh, okay. I really,
Now,
Yeah,
is
you're
it
right. I can't remember which one it
Mackenzie?
is though.
Maybe.
dude. You know, I started the sequel, Strangers 2,
Probably.
and never finished it, even though like that. What's his?
Well, first of all, there's no Strangers too. There's the Strangers, and then there's the Strangers Pray at Night.
You know what? Shut up, Brian. It's Strangers 2, even
so-
if it's not called Strangers 2, motherfucker.
Actually, the people that made that movie, having had somebody on a podcast that was in.
I
that
know
movie,
Damien. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Damien.
He specifically said that the director said we are not calling it The Strangers 2 because it's not a sequel to The Strangers, and it's not. It's not a sequel to The Strangers. It's a sequel to The Strangers in the same way that Halloween 3 was a sequel to Halloween 2. It's just
That's
another
fair.
story.
Just like in the universe, but not
Yeah,
a.
it exists in the universe, and it does have to do with the same murderers, but it's just very much not a sequel because it doesn't carry on the story at all that they had already established in the first Strangers
I
film.
mean
Now,
that's
Strangers Chapter 1 is just a fucking remake of the Strangers, and an inferior one at that.
The Strangers fucked with me so badly because
it's a
I
good
have always
movie.
had a home invasion fear.
Yeah.
And I finally decided to watch it. I was at my parents' in my apartment before it was my apartment. And they had like a glass door kind of down there. It was like a circle, and it's got all the shit in it, and you can't see directly through it, but it was also before it was screened in. And I was just sitting down there and I was watching, and right around the time that like the second set of knocks and hellos happened, a cat slammed into the door from outside. I freaked the fuck out. It was
Dude,
horrible.
I get it.
that movie and Vacancy, man, they came out right around the same time, and Vacancy also. That dude, I think,
I've actually never seen Vacancy.
dude, that movie.
Yeah, I've
I
never
haven't
seen
seen
that.
Vacancy either.
I think because of the, I think that movie, like, Home Invasion is obviously horrifying, but like Vacancy is with the like, you're at a hotel and they're like doing shady shit and just like, no, Vacancy is good, man. Vacancy was like another dark fucking movie, but all that stuff is just like it's you have that like cycles of horror, right? And obviously we were talking about Brian before King hopped on and how like obviously Shocker came out in 89, so you're the tail end of the 80s, or you'd gone through every kind of like, the 80s were a wild time for horror, man. Where so much because of the video nasties and everything with video stores and VHS and all that shit. And you rotate into this movie where you're like, it's obviously this movie. Do you have like a how much it made in theaters kind of thing, Ken, and like budgets and all this stuff?
I'll take a gander.
Because I asked because there are things with
Box
this.
office is 16.6.
Yeah, the budget was 10 million.
So it made money. I mean, I'm sure this dude. I don't know about you, Brian, and I mean, I was a kid too here, but like that whole like this, I hadn't seen this movie until like 5-ish years ago. The VHS, you know, the thing that I was making fun of earlier, the poster for this movie is pretty iconic with him sitting in the electric chair getting shot. But it was like Oh, I can't rent that. I'm not allowed to rent that movie. But it stood out to me every time I went to rent movies as a kid. Never saw it until like a couple years ago, but like 5 years ago. But I'm like, it's funny seeing like the tail end of the 80s where all these different things happened. And because like this movie isn't like, it's violent, but it's like not like super gory or anything like that. There isn't like that much gore or anything like that. There's like most of the murders are like, you don't see much. You see the after effects. But like, I think Wes does a really good job of building up to those shots. Like the scene where he finds his girlfriend is fucking horrifying, where he's just like the blood and there's just blood everywhere. And you just see it on the mirror first, right? And the scene where he's like dreaming and seeing the like his adopted mom and his adopted brother get killed. Another kind of like, you don't see much, but like horrifying. It's funny just seeing like the tail end of the 80s, how much restrictions obviously got to it, because I mean obviously Nightmare on Elm Street is a way gorier of a movie. I mean, way more blood and everything like that than this movie. But I don't know, man. It's just like you see Wes in that movie just like you see Wes in this movie. You see his style. You see what he finds. Like, I wonder if Wes almost drowned in a bathtub at some point, because that motherfucker loves fucking with bathtubs as like a horror thing. Obviously, the hand coming out of the bathtub in Nightmare. In this movie, they have the bathtub being used multiple times. It's just like it. You just see Wes being Wes in this movie, and I really do dig that. So,
yeah, it's always nice to watch one of his movies, because he does have his style and his it's always pretty easily felt when you're watching, whether you're watching this or even if you're watching, Scream or even when you're watching something like Swamp Thing.
yeah,
another old Wes Craven movie, one of the earlier superhero, air quotes, superhero movies.
One of his movies that has been on my list for a long time that I've never actually seen is it called Curse or Cursed? The werewolf
Curse.
Yeah,
Curse.
that like
Christina Ricci
and Joshua Jackson,
I
right?
love her.
Yeah.
And it's one of those another one of his fucking movies that got like probably like notoriously the biggest studio interfered movie he ever did, right? Like
it's definitely up.
Because
it's definitely up there. I want to say it was a Dimension film, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, but like they made him re-edit it down from R-rated to PG-13, which is a PG-13 werewolf movie is a weird concept, but
strange. If you would have told me that Wes Craven was making a werewolf movie, I would have been like, "Oh, fuck yeah, you kidding me?" And then you watch it and you're just like, "Why? Why in the fuck? Why?" It's like, what happened here? And yeah, it is. It's God, it was as bad as it is, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad though.
It's
not Vampire in Brooklyn bad, but it's pretty bad.
I've never seen Vampire in Brooklyn with their Eddie Murphy, right?
You're not missing much, man.
Yeah. Have you seen Vampire in Brooklyn, Ken?
No. I don't think so anyway. I'm pretty sure I haven't.
Was that a Wes Craven movie also?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was just making sure. I'm just
you said, hey man, Wes Craven's directing a horror movie where Eddie Murphy plays a vampire. Say those words out loud and you're like, that sounds fucking amazing. And then you watch it and you're like, this is fucking terrible.
This one's ass. I'm not good at.
It has Angela Bassett in it.
Dude,
Academy Award-winning actor in there.
It just makes me think, man, because I don't know if, like, Ken, you might have heard about this. Like, I was watching a video on YouTube about it today. So that Star Wars Outlaws game that came out in August, I think it came out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if either one of you.
It came out in August.
They just announced that they hired a new creative director for it. For a game that came out in August.
Is it for like DLC?
It's a live service game.
No, it's
Ah,
not.
there you go.
No, it's
I
not.
thought it was.
No,
It's an
it's
open
not.
world. I thought it was an open world live
It's not
service
li-
game.
It's not a live service game. It is a single player game that they have hired a new creative director to it. And why I bring this up is because it's the same thing that we've talked about many times here, but it's just that thing where you disconnect the artists and you put money handlers in front of the actual artists. Wes Craven wasn't perfect. He made lots of mistakes as a director, but the dude generally seemed to love movies and did some really cool things. And you just see what the shit that, like, it's funny because I see why John Carpenter is John Carpenter, man. He started getting fucked with like Wes Craven. I mean, he did almost, the same amount, but like he said fuck this and left. Hollywood might have killed Wes Craven. Like he might have like, he just made him like, I can't handle this anymore, and died. Like it's just like, you just take the fucking, and that's why I hate capitalism is what it is. It enables so much, but it also, like, you take the art out of everything. You put money before the art. You do all this stuff, and it's just like, I could see why Wes Craven would say fuck you Hollywood and fuck you New Line and do a movie that's just like, he can't help it from being a Wes Craven movie, but like, man, it fucking sucks. And I don't know. I
But
know.
I mean, with that like realm, Wes Craven did They Live, right?
No,
No,
that was John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about them being correlated in all of our minds, kind of like because of their career paths and kind of when they were and how they kind of correlate in so many ways. And it's just like, well, I mean, it's funny because now you don't have many, like, it happens, but you don't have many like Hollywood horror movies with like $60 million budgets. Stuff like the Halloween Kills and Ends kind of were up there and kind of had those kind of budgets. And what's still one of my favorite horror movies of all time, we're talking about, like, which also kind of ties back into this movie, Malignant. Malignant and this movie have a lot in common, I think, like, where they're like, we're making a intentionally B horror movie kind of thing, and not. I assume that the reviews for this movie weren't great, and I think when I looked at them, like when I was renting it today, it was like the critics were like 30% or something like that. Like, Ken, I don't know if you have like.
I mean, on IMDb it's at 5.5 out of 10, and then
Yeah.
on Google it was 30% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Google users have 82% liked the movie. So, I mean, you definitely have kind of a spread. Amazon reviews for at least Amazon Canada are 4.6 out of 5.
Yeah. It's a movie where you go in, if you go in expecting an Academy Award winning film, you're going to be disappointed. If you go in expecting a Wes Craven film that's fun and not necessarily high tier stuff. I mean, dude, this movie made me laugh. I have to. Did either one of you go? Were there like because it was WWF at the time, like WWF inspirations for this movie? Because this motherfucker drop kicks,
Like the drop kick or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that was incredible.
and then he's doing kind of like Undertaker moves, like tossing each other around when they're fighting and stuff like that. I'm just like, this movie's just, is it good? Debatable. Is it fun?
Very debatable.
Yeah.
It's
Is
a
it?
blast.
Yeah, it's
I
fucking
think it's fun.
fun as
Yeah.
shit, man. I was
We
kind of,
haven't talked
It's
about.
just over length. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, we have. It is a bit long, but we haven't talked about the most important thing about this movie yet.
What is that,
I've
Brian?
been waiting. The fucking soundtrack. Okay.
Oh,
Look,
it's really good.
this soundtrack is one of the greatest fucking horror movie soundtracks
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
They literally put a band of super fucking rockers together.
What is the soundtrack,
just
Brian?
to record.
Yeah.
Do
What is
what?
what is the soundtrack? Do you have like a list of the soundtrack?
Yeah, of course I have it pulled up. It's
I
got
was just pulling it up.
It's got 3 Dudes of Wrath songs on it. Dudes of Wrath is a super group put together strictly for this soundtrack that had Paul Stanley from Kiss, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, Alice Cooper, Desmond Child, he produced the whole soundtrack. Guy Shippen, Rudy Suzzo, and Vivian Campbell.
And
They-
White makes Ruddy Sarzo.
Yes,
bass.
Rudy Sarzo.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
awesome fucking music. It's got an Iggy Pop song. It's got a Megadeth cover of No More Mr. Nice Guy. We've got Bonfire. We've got Saray. We got Dangerous Toys. This fucking soundtrack is one of the greatest fucking soundtracks.
You want to
in
know?
horror movie history.
You want to know?
I've got it on vinyl. I had to order it from like fucking Europe.
Okay. You want to know what I think is up there, and I think is the movie that soundtrack doesn't get as much credit, and it's horror adjacent. End of Days, the Arnold
End of Days
Schwarzenegger.
has a great soundtrack.
We have Korn, we have Everlast, we have Professional Murder Music, we have Limp Bizkit, we have Guns N' Roses, The Prodigy, Rob Zombie, Eminem, Power Man 5000.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's a really good Power Man song.
Yeah.
On there. I want to
Dude.
say that's Nobody's Real, isn't it? Isn't Nobody's Real the song that's on that soundtrack?
Yep. The
that's a
song that
great song.
the song that connected with me, because I own that soundtrack. It was one of the ones I bought back in the day. Was the Everlast song, which was So Long, and that song fucking slaps. But like,
Yeah.
it's funny because you're talking about this, and I was just thinking about that now, like how Ken and I both stream, and how like how music in video games has changed, especially recently. Classy Katie got a DMCA strike the other day, Ken, for playing Halberd. Was it the movie, the Halberd game? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like a kind of claymation point and click kind of adventure where you're like
Oh, that
undersea.
doesn't surprise me. I got a slap for wind in the forest.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
you did?
sound of wind in the
Yeah.
forest.
So
Yeah,
like
I remember
she got to
playing that.
she got to the credits to that game, and there's like a song, and they slapped her for that. And I'm just like, how like movies don't have like these mega soundtracks anymore. You know what I mean? It's like besides like
Well,
like-
they do. They just they're
James
just not-
Gunn. James
I
Gunn
think
does
might
it.
Be a thing of when, yeah. I think there's also a generational thing that,
Yeah.
that
it's
comes into play
definitely.
because, like, when I was, I mean, in the '90s when the first movie Twister came out, that
Yeah.
had like a stacked soundtrack with like Van Halen, Goo Goo Dolls, all sorts of fucking
Yeah.
really cool shit that was like huge at the time. And then Twisters comes out. They did the same thing.
But it was just
And I
country.
like, oh fuck! I'm gonna have to buy that soundtrack. But then I looked at it and I was like, I'm old
Is it-
because
it's
I don't
just-
care about
it's-
any of these
yeah.
bands aside of Chris Stapleton and Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
But I don't think. But the point is, it happens, right? But like, it feels like soundtracks aren't what they used to be. Like they don't
no,
get
80s
artists in them.
you're right. The
Yeah.
80s was the era of soundtracks. And this
And the 90s,
thankfully
like-
sneaks in- yeah, the 90s was really good. It was particularly the early 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 80s really set the standard in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because look at the soundtracks that came out in the 80s. You got one of the greatest movie soundtracks ever. Like you got like The Breakfast Club, Pretty in
Mhm.
Pink, 16, all of those fucking movies. You got Beverly Hills Cop, these killer soundtrack. This motherfucker,
Yeah.
The Lost Boys, and
Mhm.
it's just
Oh
a
yeah,
banger of a soundtrack.
yeah.
Even the silly ass movie Trick or Treat that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
That's got that's got a kick ass sound because it's all Fastway. One band recorded that whole fucking
Yeah.
soundtrack, and it's just amazing. So
I don't-
Stand By Me, another
Yeah.
really good
I have to wonder.
sound. St. Elmo's Fire, shit movie, awesome
Yeah.
soundtrack.
I have to wonder though. Like, I wonder if it's a thing because, like, I was having this discussion the other day with like Katie after we went and saw Devil Wears Prada, and they had like 4 opening bands, which is a lot of bands for me, but they were all really good, and we were talking about it in what I think this correlates, and we'll go back to the soundtrack, where how these bands, it's easier for them to find like really great tour lineups, openers and shit like that.
Hmm.
But there are too many bands for stuff like Hollywood and stuff like that, and like pop stars are demanding more and all that stuff like that. So I wonder if that's like this weird thing where it's like there are more like really good things that aren't to that extent of like, you know, money bringing in shit like they're not Taylor Swift and shit like that. And now, which means movie soundtracks aren't like, you get more things like, you know, Trent Reznor's doing his thing and like killing soundtracks whenever he does them and all that stuff. But like him and Atticus Ross or like whatever. But like now it's like you don't have those like kind of like record label curated soundtracks like the 80s and the 90s, right? And so it's like that's why, like, I mean, like I said James Gunn, like James Gunn's movies, every single James Gunn movie has an awesome soundtrack because he loves 80s music.
Quentin Tarantino's Quentin Tarantino's movies always have great soundtracks too. But yeah, you're right. I don't know if you're necessarily have necessarily found the potential problem though, but it's very possible that you're onto something.
Yeah.
I kind of, my thoughts are, I just kind of feel like things like that go in cycles, and like the hype for movie soundtracks is just down, so studios just ain't interested in putting them together.
I feel like I don't know about either one of you guys. Like, I think the last soundtrack that I thought was fucking great was, and I was like, I fell in love with, was like Into the Spider-Verse, like the first one. Yeah, that soundtrack was fucking.
What was all on that? I've only seen that movie a couple of times.
Like that movie, and then Black Panther both had awesome. The original Black Panther had like.
It's funny you say that because that's the one I've been thinking of a lot, is the Black Panther soundtrack and how like good it is. And then I did just recently add the Beetlejuice soundtrack is pretty good. The Lisa Frankenstein soundtrack.
Oh, the fucking Lisa Frankenstein soundtracks is so. Yeah, they have. You can get the soundtrack and score on vinyl, but it doesn't have all of the songs used in the movie.
That's probably like your biggest reason that you're not getting them as much, and why there's less of a focus on it, because you know, we're not buying as much physical media, and
that's well, this fucking nerd will be buying records until the day he fucking bucks the kick it.
Bucks the kick it or fucks the kick it. Either way, I'm here for it.
Bucks the kick it.
And it's weird. And it's weird because I'm gonna bring it back.
Bucks the ticket.
I'm gonna weave back. I'm gonna pull like a weave back and then go. It's funny because it's like I feel like soundtracks like this movie soundtrack, which you're right, Brian. This movie soundtrack is fucking fantastic. It is a thing where like I feel like it gives you that continuation for movies to live on in your mind, right? Like it gives you that thing where you're like you're listening to the soundtrack outside of the movie, and it means. I think it makes lasting memories, and it makes that thing where like it sticks with you forever. Like whenever you hear a song from that soundtrack again, you're going to think of that movie. And
I think a lot of like, I think you're 100% right. Sucker Punch's soundtrack is phenomenal. The movie may not be that great for some people. I loved it, but that soundtrack is amazing.
Well, dude, Snyder,
I enjoyed that movie.
Snyder's
I really liked it. A lot of people shit all over it.
I've had it on Blu-ray for years and never actually watched the movie. Snyder is, you give a thing about Snyder visually, like his number one thing is visuals. His visuals are amazing, but his soundtracks are fucking great too. Like, you go and you look at like Watchmen and shit like that. Like he does really, really great soundtracks. But yeah, it's a thing. Like that's the thing, Ken. You think about the soundtrack that with a movie that might not everyone like remembers, and it's just it's. Also, I want to talk to you guys real quick before we wrap up because this makes me laugh. Did either one of you guys see the video of the church singing like a prayer? Because
down on my knees.
It's a song about blowjobs, and you're singing it in church. You dumb motherfucker. Did you see that, Brian?
No, I didn't, but you're gonna have to send me a link.
I saw it on TikTok again. I had seen it somewhere, and I'm just like, it is literally a entire. I'm talking about one of those like southern churches that are like, it's like
a mega church.
Yeah,
just singing like a prayer, and I'm like, I understand the like a prayer lyrics. Do you listen to the lyrics? It's about a blowjob and coming in Madonna's mouth. And I am perfectly happy with that. But just it's the world we live in is just
Let
like,
'em do it, man. Let them fucking do it.
but no, Ken,
What? Let them do it.
let
They're
him do. I'm
fucking
not.
stupid.
Let him come in Madonna's mouth.
No,
okay?
no.
Yeah. Not only are they singing a song about blowjobs in a church, they're singing it by an artist named Madonna, who
Yeah.
has deep-rooted religious roots in that name.
Yeah.
Let them fucking do it.
My point wasn't that. It was, what is the world we live in? That was the point.
Stupidity.
Yeah.
Lack of, and like just,
Well,
it has prayer.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've
Yeah.
seen the fruits of
Yeah.
the.
I was
of
telling-
what-
I was telling Brian before you got on, Ken, about how one of my favorite things of late has been Googling or searching FOFO MAGA on TikTok, because it is one of the most amazing things you'll ever see for a bunch of videos. Ken, so Brian and I were talking about this. Christmas horror movies. There's some things that I want to do that I've never been done on this podcast. Gremlins is up there. So I'm thinking we do Gremlins next week, because this episode is coming out on Thanksgiving, which means every episode for the next 4 weeks come out.
Oh, we needed to, I know we watched it last year, but watch Thanksgiving. All
Yeah.
of you watch Thanksgiving. Sorry. Go
Even
ahead.
if
Done.
you're watching, yeah.
I already did it.
Yeah. What are there any other Christmas horror movies that you? Because we've done Krampus, we did Krampus and shit like that. We've done the Christmas Bloody Christmas. We've done Silent Night, Deadly Night. Ken, have you ever seen Silent Night, Deadly Night 2?
No.
Okay.
It's fucking garbage day, yo.
Okay,
Wait.
Can we were talking about bad movies before you come on. I was trying to get Brian to watch The Fanatic yet again.
I'll probably watch it.
Silent Night.
Watch Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, don't worry. Watching Silent Night, Deadly Night
I
2,
was just getting ready to
you will
say
get
that.
you watch. It is literally 45 minutes of that movie is the original. It is.
Oh, okay.
You don't you'll be
But-
fine.
But watch the first one first.
Yeah. Okay. But next week I want to do Gremlins, because I want to start off, because I'm going to watch Gremlins because next week whatever. So let's do Gremlins. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 we'll do, and then like think of anything else you guys want to do for Christmas horror movies that like.
It's been a long time since I've watched Gremlins. That's cool. I like
Gremlins is a yearly watch for me. These are my
Oh,
yearly.
I love that.
These
Well,
are my
you have-
yearly
you do
Christmas
have a dog
watches.
named Gizmo, so yeah.
Yeah. Gremlins, Die Hard, and Home
Yes.
Alone are the three that I have to watch every year. And then also Ken's probably on the same page too. And then it's things like watching Bob's Burgers, like Thanksgiving and Christmas specials and things like that. So yeah. So
I have to watch Christmas Vacation every year.
Yes.
Die Hard.
Yes.
'Cause
Christmas
I love National
Vacation.
Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
dude, I
We
still
could
remember
always watch Violent Night again.
we did that last year, Ken.
I know.
It's really good.
You just want to get horny over Santa
David
Harbor
You got
again. Yeah.
more?
Dude, I mean, I would get
Oh,
I would get-
that movie.
I would get horny over Santa Harbor also. So let's be real. So okay, well,
Dude,
but
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Better
Dude,
watch out.
he's great. I can't wait till
Watch
the
Out's pretty cool.
the
It's
Thunderbolts.
a home invasion movie.
We did that, yeah, the early days before Ken. Yeah, that movie's dude, that movie's twisted as shit, man. I love it. Better watch out, it's great. Okay, so we'll do Gremlins next week. We'll do Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 because Ken's. You should probably watch the first one, but yeah, I wouldn't watch them both in the same day, Ken, because lots of recycled.
Can I suggest we watch Await Further Instructions at some point? It's set in Christmas time.
Yes, I mean that's what I'm saying. I wanted to get like 3 or 4 of them, so we're at 2. So I don't. What's that movie called?
Await further instructions. A family's Christmas takes a strange turn when they awake to find themselves trapped inside and begin receiving mysterious instructions.
Do you want to do that next week, or do you want to do Gremlins next week? I mean, I'm cool with doing whatever. I just want to start doing Christmas horror movies, and we've never done Gremlins, so those two things are. Do we want to do Gremlins and then push that one off?
Sure, I don't care.
Okay, let's do Gremlins next week, and then we'll do that one. So you just keep that in mind, Ken. So that's your movie that we're throwing into the Christmas ones. Okay, cool. Well, Ken, I'm glad you like this movie. This movie is
Fuck yeah, I am too.
Shocker is it's it's one of those things, man. I can perfectly enjoy a bad movie, and this is arguably a bad movie, but like I just think that even when a movie's bad, when the directing and all that stuff is as good as this is because it's Wes Craven, it's a fun time, and this is a fun time. The cast is great, the soundtrack's great, the premise is great, even when it's kind of goofy. I still laugh at every time I see him putting his fingers in the electrical socket.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which can I just came at when you were watching it, I jumped to the Discord just to see how far you guys were, and then I bounced out. And Ken was insulting me. What do you call me? I forget what you called me.
I jumped in for a second. I had my mic turned off.
Yeah. Okay.
I had myself muted and my mic off because I was just like, I just want to watch this. I don't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Next week we do Gremlins, and I love you too. So, Ken, your stuff, pimp it.
Continue, KINTINUE. Hey, that's me. You can find me live on twitch.tv/continue every day at 8 a.m. Eastern, except for Saturdays. And I post a lot of stuff online. I'm more on Blue Sky. I'm doing basically posting on both at the moment, X/Twitter/ and then posting on
I'm
Blue
waiting
Sky.
for Rod to do the Blue Sky.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to create it, and I would like the Blue Sky app to have a second fucking account feature where you could switch between them. That would make it easier. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, and I'm playing Satisfactory.
Just make it because I don't really do anything on.
Okay, I'll make one tomorrow and give you the stuff.
Yeah, just give me the stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
And then.
Yeah, Kids Plains has.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't felt like doing anything on Twitter because it's just a cesspool. And
No, I do.
Yeah.
I don't do anything on Twitter for the first time in years. It's like the last month I stopped. I post my going live for Twitter, and that's about all. So, Ken, I love you, and I'm glad that you enjoyed this. And I'm glad that you're. How close are you to making it to orbit in Satisfactory? Are you close?
Maybe halfway. Probably not, because I think it'll work kind of like how most games work as you progress. I don't know. I'm finishing phase 5. There's 9 phases, and each one gets progressively more difficult. So
what is there an ETA and time to beat that game?
I mean, Sarah did it in 100 hours, but she's played like 1,000 or 1,500 hours. So
so she was playing. It was in early access a bunch. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I know that some people they usually get to phase 4 and stop playing. So we're about to finish phase 5. So that's pretty cool,
dude.
Yeah, you're doing better than the average player, then. Yeah.
Dude,
Okay.
So you're doing better than the average player, then. So, yeah.
I suppose so. I could technically finish phase 5 tomorrow and just hand feed it and finish it out and start on 6. But I mean, I'm kind of having fun setting it up because I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm fucked like I have been for this one because I was hand feeding so much. So
I love watching you play it, but I like my brain doesn't handle it after a while. It's like it's watching Ken do like. You ever watch someone do like 8 things at a time, and you're like, I don't know what they're doing. I appreciate what they're doing, but like I'm watching Ken do this and I'm like, yep, don't get this. Cool. I'm glad. And I always hit Ken up when she's playing it, like on a browser. I'm not always watching because my brain hurts. But yeah. Brian, you guys, I know you have a bunch of episodes in the can for We're Gonna Make You Watch. What's the next one coming out?
I think the next one that's coming out after this drops should be our discussion of Christmas Horror Story, I want to say.
I don't know that one.
We made Warren watch A Christmas Horror Story, which is like it's an anthology horror movie, and it's all Christmas air quote related tales, even though one of them could have happened in the middle of fucking spring break, honestly. But it's a fun movie. It's got Shatner in it. I don't know if that's a selling point, but whatever. But yeah, it's a pretty fun movie. And then,
cool.
We forced him to watch that. And
Good.
I think the one that just dropped was Thanksgiving.
Cool. I love Thanksgiving, dude. I still remember being like,
oh, good.
I'm gonna have to watch
that. Warren loved it.
Watch that one.
Alert, yeah.
Dude, that opening scene is still one of the most like surrealist scenes I've ever watched in a horror movie. That it turns into kind of a mockery of whatever, but like that opening scene is wild, and I love it. Yeah, I am on Twitch at Rod_Johnston and Blue Sky and the same thing. And you guys find my book, which is The Death and Rebirth of a Human Heart. We're going on to like I'm about to put it on sale for Christmas. I think I'll probably take like $5 off for Christmas time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff, this man.
Yeah. Okay, guys. We will catch you guys next week for Gremlins, and we love you, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.